Hey guys, today I want to make a video talking about surveillance culture, the Situationist movement, and moving forward, how to deal with that as an artist. So, we are living in a world that is increasingly and increasingly surveilled. I'm talking picking up your phone in the morning, that's data. Opening it, that's your face on the screen now. Posting every day, you're posting. There's like auto surveillance culture. And on top of that, we're also being surveilled by other people, by security cameras, CCTV, internet usage, ad data, money, like everything is sort of being tracked, right? And so this is what is leading to what is now called surveillance culture. And also, I want to bring it back with the Situationist movement and tell you guys about a movement that was kind of predating surveillance culture, but also even in its moment was so strongly against being, how to say, like captured, that we can learn from it today. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about just what I'm doing as an artist and what inspires me as an artist moving forward in surveillance culture. So, starting off surveillance culture, guys, like I said, we're being recorded on so many different planes. There's this really scary clip of the second richest man in the world talking about how his whole plan, and this guy is like the Lex Luthor of richness and eliteness and everything, and he talks about how he wants to basically make it so that every citizen is sort of under this guided path of, okay, I'm being watched, so I need to be on my best behavior, which obviously makes way for people that are subservient, people that are easier to push. You know, as all of this data is being collected on us, as we're being surveilled, the effects are that our next actions can be anticipated. If you know everything about how a bullet shoots, everything about the wall it will hit, you can calculate what will happen in that interaction. If the same way, if you know everything about someone's interests and then you feed them certain tools, certain things, then that person will have a projected action of being more inclined to wanting to, for example, buy those products. So that's surveillance culture being directly lied is in French, but I don't connected to consumerism, right? It's kind of this ploy to get us to buy things, to get us to do a predicted action. That is sort of one benefit, but also negative aspect of surveillance, because the second that you do know how something will happen, yes, you can prepare for it. You know, it's good to do studies of climate change. It's good to have monitoring. It's good to monitor. Monitoring is like maybe the lighter version of surveillance. It's good to monitor our climate, right? Because then we can predict how we can stop it. That's a good thing. Protecting the planet is a good thing. But when it comes to us being almost inundated with the desire to record ourselves, to um, put ourselves out in this line, this path that is created for us, that is when it becomes a problem. And you can even see this on Meta, on Instagram, the way that they run their app. They have now structured it so that it is kind of like a game. So the second you reach 4.5 thousand views, it's like an achievement. So it kind of motivates people to surveil themselves, to self put this information in. And so this is obviously like a social tool. So for us, the surveillance is a social, has a social dynamic now. It's not just punitive. Punitive is like, negative consequences. Like, it's not just the prison, it's not just CCTV, but it's also quite literally how we are forming our identities is through this calculation of what we do every day, you know? And it was cute, right? It was cute in 2016 when we were doing like get ready with me videos, etc. Because you can make a beautiful image with this, right? And that's how it connects to art, is really that when you're able to reflect your identity and calculate it onto something else, that is a form of art, you know? That is a form of vision, taking a vision and bringing it into real life. You can play with surveillance culture in that way, right? But what is happening is not designed for us to go in that direction. The action that is calculated is not in that way. These are ideas and things that are not being made for us, if that makes sense. Like with the income of AI, with everything like that, will be taking up our visual space is quite literally eating us, but also feeding us ourselves back. That's what we call like AI slop, because at the end of the day, the AI is taught off of what we're making, right? It's taught off of all the information that we give it, the surveil information. However, it is not able to produce its own thing independent of those inputs. So what it outputs is essentially just a regurgitation, a mixing of what you give to it. It's AI slop. That's why they call it AI poop, right? This is all connected, guys, because the same people that want to have us be in a surveilled area are also investing in nuclear radiation technology to power these AI facilities, right? It takes a lot of energy to actually get to this amount of technology. It takes a lot of energy to, number one, have a camera everywhere essentially, have a microphone everywhere essentially, and number two, process that data, input it with the AI, the artificial intelligence, right? And have it come out with something back. And the thing that is in between that, right? We have the surveillance, the information that we give it. We have the machine that actually regurgitates it. And then the outward, there's something in between that, which is what the master of the surveillance machine wants. And that's where you get all of this consumerism. That's where you get all of this corruption. And it's scary. It's really scary, right? So that brings me to my second point. I want to have a little bit of a good time, right? Let's bring it back to the 80s. The Situationist movement was a movement that was literally about not writing down what you're doing. These were artists that were making art that was as simple as going on a walk. So the whole idea of the movement was creating something that was so abstract that it cannot actually be placed. It's a situation. It's like kind of this idea of the ephemeral, right? Of like it was there one time and then it's not anymore. I think the ephemeralist movement that we're seeing today is kind of similar to the situationist movement in that way, where it's like you're not able to actually describe what you experienced. It's almost just a feeling. And that's how it was for the situationists. Like I said, like they would do art that was just about walking in a city. And that was it. And they didn't track it, they didn't calculate it. You know, like the amount of data that was actually made from this movement is that limited that their point was made basically. What they wanted to do was to make an art that was so so confined to its own time, so unsurveilled, so there was no cameras, there was no writing down what happened, there was no way of calculating that data. And in creating that, you create this almost subversion of what is the typical way of art, right? And so that's why I really like the situationist movement. I think it's, like I said, it's similar to the ephemeralist movement of today. The ephemeralist movement of today, like this is just me coming up with this movement now, but this is for me what I would call like the whole the row, for example, not letting people take pictures of the exhibition and everything, or also, you know, posting that this party is happening, but you don't invite anyone, or you don't post pictures of it, or you don't let people use their phone. It's like the moment in that creative space is confined to its existence physically, and then it's gone. No one is there with their digi cameras, no one is there with their iPhone, no one is recording it, etc. I think that's beautiful. I think that encourages also word of mouth communication, right? It communicates it encourages people to find the words to actually describe what happened. When you see a beautiful performance, it's beautiful, right? And it exists in that moment, and you shouldn't be recording it, but if you're recording it, and if you're not recording it, you never see it again. The specific movements that the dancer does, the specific situation that you're in, the ephemeral moment of it is temporary. And unless you have the vocabulary and the understanding to explain to someone else, to explain about it even to yourself, it exists in that moment. I remember seeing this dance, and I couldn't even tell you the name of it. I couldn't tell you the people that made it or anything, but I have the image of it in my head and the way that she moved and the way that, and it's only exists in my head. And when I die, unless someone watches this video, it will only exist in the heads of the people that were there, and then it's gone. And that's such a beautiful thing. That leads me to my third point, which is where to move forward as an artist. I remember when I was in college, I was taking an art history class about South American art, and this was having to do with just the traditions that were happening, for example, for the Aztecs, for the Mayans, for people that were basically using art as a means to worship. And one of the most notable concepts was this idea of a mural that was completely covered and no one could see it. The ancient indigenous people, I think it was the Aztecs or the Incas. I think it was the Incas. They would basically have these columns, and on the faces it would be all of these prayers. So it will look like, it will look like reliefs of different images. For us, it would look like a sculpture, right? And then one of the faces of the column would be facing a wall, which means no one could see it. I mean, unless you were a little ant and you walked in there and you could then see it. But still, they were so intricately made so that it was a full piece of art, so that it was fully encapsulated and it was not made for anyone to see except for the gods. That concept, making something just for the gods. And it's a concept that I played with and that I think is so related to the surveillance movement because of its non-documentation, right? You're not putting that relief there. You're not putting that sculpture there so that a human can see it. You're putting it there quite literally just so it exists, and then no one sees it, and it's only for the gods to see it. It's only for this higher being, this speechless concept, this, I'm even speechless trying to explain it. It's only for them to see. It's beautiful, really. Like, I think it kind of taps into the meditation aspect of a human life, I guess I would say. It's kind of related to that because it's not for the purpose of anything that is based in the material world, right? It's not for the purpose of buying something. It's not for the purpose of having someone like it. It's not for the purpose of having someone else see it. It's not even for the purpose of any human. It could even you could even say it's for an ant. It's so contrary to everything that we are predisposed to do as humans. We're predisposed to make things for other people. We're predisposed to buy things. We're predisposed to eat, consume, do this, all this. We're predisposed to put down our information on our phone. We're predisposed to take a selfie. We're predisposed to take a picture at a church. We're predisposed to take a nice picture of a sunset. It's the difference between enjoying a sunset with your eyes and taking a picture of it. I love taking pictures of sunsets, but when you lose that relationship, the intimate relationship with that moment, you are almost victim to the surveillance culture. Okay, well, that is how I feel about it, and I hope that going forward people can think about these concepts more, because that's why I'm talking about it, because I these are concepts that are sort of deeper in my consciousness, and they definitely dictate the way I create art and everything. especially with the surveillance culture. I always try to sort of refract my own art on itself and kind of use it as a mirror. That's why I like to collage, and I like to print my own images and do everything, and kind of I've been working recently to transfer all my Instagram, and because essentially my Instagram is my portfolio, right? I've been trying to work to transfer it um into real life, like prints and everything, because it's interesting, you know. I also did a performance for Bling Bling Apocalypse that was related to it. I did this with Minho, and yeah, basically we had a box that was in my room, and it was like all white on the outside and the inside is a secret, but I was inside of the box for 5 hours, and we basically just invited people to go into that room and look at the box, and I was in the box literally just meditating, not on my phone. Like, I mean, I'm trying to meditate, honestly. I was like in a box, you know, but the box inside was special, and I only got to experience it unless someone looked inside of the box. No one else knew what the box looked like on the inside, and so that's kind of it's kind of like related to that. I don't know why I'm ending on like an example, but yeah, I hope that this inspires you to, you know, think about more the ways that you are approaching the internet, and that we can create a group and a world of people that are thinking about the effects of all of these actions that these rich people are making and we have really no idea about. Um, so yeah, have a good day. Bye.